today's podcast episode is going to be a book review because there are books that you read and books that you forget about, and then there are books that stay with you, books that reach into your chest and sit heavy on your heart. And for me, Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi was one of those books. It was painful and it was beautiful, and it left me with more questions than answers. And today we're going to talk about that. Welcome to At the Table podcast, the virtual table where we discuss all things young adulting. Before I dive into how this book made me feel, I'm going to give you all a little background. Homegoing is a book by Yaa Gyasi. It is their debut album, and I would say it is honestly a masterpiece. It begins in the 18th century in Ghana with two half-sisters, Ifia and Essie, who are separated at birth. And Ifia is married to an English colonizer, while Essie is sold into slavery. And from there, the book follows their descendants through 8 generations, some in Ghana and some in America. Each chapter includes a new character, new time period, and explains their new way of surviving. It is ambitious, it is heartbreaking, it is not a neat story. It's more like, I think I would say, a quilt of voices stitched together across continents and centuries, and you know that they are all in the same family. I tend to love multi-generational families stories because you can hear the difference in how each generation changes and how each generation evolves and figures out how to survive. And that's what this book was. It was a multi-generational book, and it was really cool being able to read, I think, the ancestors of our previous, character, and being able to follow that storyline through. My own personal journey with Homegoing started because I had already read their books, Transcendent Kingdom, and I thought her writing was gorgeous. Her storytelling was very detailed, rich, and almost lyrical. I really, really, really enjoyed Transcendent Kingdom, honestly. I think the only qualm that I had with it was I didn't like how she ended it. But I was like, no. Her storytelling is so good. I am going to read her big book, Homegoing. And I did. And wow, this book was really hard. I don't read Black history novels often because of how heavy they are. And it's been a few years since I've picked one up. And Homegoing reminded me of exactly why. It is trauma after trauma after trauma and heartbreak after heartbreak. I'm not saying that there isn't a place for it. I'm not saying that there aren't lessons to be learned from it. But it was a really, really hard book. And as a reader, I felt it in my chest. And I knew, even as heavy as it was for me, there's obviously nothing as compared to going through the actual pain. But the fact that people lived this history is so sad, and it's so sobering. And I think my perspective is also layered, right? Because I'm African. I was born in Nigeria. But it's interesting because you kind of read the same I think struggle that I kind of have as well between being African and being African American. And as I was reading Homegoing, I just couldn't shake the thought that this could have been my ancestors' neighbors, This could have been the village next to mine. And it's a very unique pain, I think, when it's not necessarily your history, but it's this history of your sister, It was really, really so sad. I don't know, it's like, you're seeing your sister's child hurting, but it's not your child, but it still cuts really deep because there's a likeness, there's a kinship. And that's how I felt reading this book, especially as it did maneuver between a family dynamic in Accra and a family in America as well. It was tough. It was really, really tough. But I did have some themes and takeaways from the book. And one of the themes that hit me big was identity. It's so interesting. Like, I think in Nigeria, I wouldn't be called black. In fact, if anyway, that's besides the point. In Nigeria, I think I'd be called Yoruba or Nigerian or African. But here in America, the first thing that people see is my skin. And I am black, right? And there is no conversation, there is no nuance. I'm just black. And this reminded me of a mentor that I have. And I remember when I was younger, she would ask me, like, how are you navigating your black skin? And I remember not understanding what she meant because I hadn't realized what it meant for me to be black in America. And I didn't realize what blackness carries, the history, the assumptions, the stereotype, also the pride and the resilience. And this book made me sit with that. As you also read, the characters also go through the exact same dilemma, navigating life. Not only is some of them weren't even black, like, well, one of the sisters, I think it was Effia, she married a white man. So you could also see them navigate with their race, not only as them being black, but also like being half caste, being mixed race. And you know, I feel like sometimes maybe we feel the tension and we feel what it's like, but sometimes we don't have the words to articulate. And I think that Yaa did a really good job in articulating, and I have no idea how she did this, to be honest, because it's very nuanced, it's very complex. Like, how do you articulate something that you've never been through? How do you articulate something, a pain that you didn't yourself experience? But she did a really good job in talking through all of that. And in the book, a lot of it was like, oh, I get that feeling. I understand that specific exact feeling. I get it. Where is that from? And in the book, she explains a lot of these feelings that sometimes you just don't know how to put words to. And that was very interesting. That was really, really good to experience. That was really good to watch. And I think I was mentioning this or alluding to this earlier, but there's an interesting side in it, I guess, for me, because like I'm both African and American. So it's like I could vaguely identify with one side and I could vaguely identify with the other side. I kind of sit in the moat between both. So that was very interesting to experience in that book. And that's something that I will be taking away, just an additional understanding of what my blackness means. Another theme that broke me in the book was womanhood. Yaa does not sugarcoat it. She showed us women who had no choice in the abuse that they endured, the people that they loved, and also the unthinkable decisions that they had to make about their children. There was this scene that absolutely broke me. I was in the airport reading it, but it was about Vanessa and her husband. If you read it, you understand. They were on a plantation. They were slaves, and they ran away with her baby and her husband. And they had run away with someone else as well. And they had climbed up trees, and then the master was looking for them. And she left her baby with the woman who was helping her escape. She came down, and her husband came down as well. And then the slave master had asked, "Where is the baby?" And in that story, or in that context, she was like, she had to muster up the strength to be able to say her baby was dead, the same way that other women would after they came from the forest and they had actually killed their babies, because they felt that killing their babies was a better life than making them go through like just living life as a slave. I think that hurt me. Like, that genuinely broke me. Because I don't know, like, I think that's how do you say that's sad? Because it's not sad, it's genuinely heartbreaking. Like, that's how bad it was. And then it, like, it gives me another level of infuriation, because we want to take away teaching about slavery in schools, which I think is a crime in of itself, but I won't get into because that's not my stage. But I think that this book taught me about womanhood, and it taught me about the sacrifices you have to make, and it's not only in that, like, specific situation, right, but it was in other relationships and other mothers' relationships with their daughters, seeing relationships that I was like, that's not ideal, and then seeing relationships that I would love to admire. It, she showed me the strength of women, like, and obviously this book followed two girls, so it showed me the strength of women. It showed me the resiliency women have in order to protect their husbands and their families and their children. And I don't know, I mean, maybe being raised Black, I'm used to that strength, but reading about it, I'm used to, like, seeing the strength. I'm used to being around the strength. It's almost like water to me, right? But reading about it, I think in my adult age, understanding that maybe cognitively, like, some of these things are not okay, it made me have a greater appreciation of womanhood and of being a wife and of being a mother. And I think that this book was a really good a shower of reality. Like, it did a really good job of putting reality up to my face, even though obviously it's not the same because times are different. It still shows that women are very strong, and I loved watching that, and I loved being able to experience that as a reader. Another thing that I loved about her book, and a theme that I'm taking away, is the strength of Black people, and the strength in being Black. Because as much as Homegoing is about trauma, it is also about survival. And I think about it like, wow, enslaved Africans were really taken to an unknown land. They were stripped of everything familiar, and somehow they were still able to build culture and family and music and tradition. And they created a life where there was meant to be none. Like, that is not something that I ever want to gloss over. Like, this is not just trauma, this is resilience. And it makes me look at the Black community as a whole, as I'm also in the Black community here in America with new eyes. It just speaks to how strong we are. And sometimes I think we take for granted that culture is just here, that culture is here, and that we have that in us. But it's a culture and a strength that had to be created from nothing. And I think that's beautiful. This book was a tough book to read. This book was a hard book to read. This book made me raw. I cried. I laughed, but I cried. I grew through the book. I definitely am not the same person I was reading before the book. And I'm excited to read more books like this, more books that will skin me, that will bruise me, that the bruises I'll be happy to carry, because I know that I know what they represent, and I know what they stand for. I always think about the fact that, like, my ancestors, my people, all of our people, right, like, before us did their part, and how I myself also have to do my own part. And that's why I think, like, podcasts like this are very important. I think that it's important to see the excellence of Black, and it's important to see the beauty in Black. And it's a cross. After reading this book again, I recarry, because I understand the importance of it. I understand the importance of my 1%, your 1%, the 1% of your mother, the 1% of your great-grandmother, irrespective of where you come from, how you got here. It doesn't where you are, it doesn't matter. But you have to do your 1%. Okay, so let's go back and I'll tell you my honest opinion. I think that Yaa is brilliant, and I think she's a wonderful writer. Her style is detailed, her characters are rich, and Homegoing is a breathtaking book and heartbreaking. And she's good. She knows how to put a book together. But this book did also frustrate me. Just like Transcendent Kingdom, the ending left me unsatisfied as well. I felt like in this book I went through so much sadness, so much gut punches. I wanted a resolution. I wanted some type of release. And I did not get that in this book. And it left me so raw and honestly so annoyed. This book actually reminded me of A Little Life. And A Little Life was long. It was hard. But somehow, even in the pain, it felt complete. And Homegoing did not give me that same closure. And I don't know. I think that's what matters to me as a writer. Like, I feel like if you're gonna beat me up, if you're gonna bruise me, at least leave me intact, right? Like, I don't think she did that, but honestly, the book is beautiful, you guys, and I'm so thankful that I read it, because, again, like I said, I'm not the same person coming out of the book that I was when I went into it. And there's actually a quote that I read, you guys, that I just thought was the most beautiful thing I've read in a very long time. And it was the part where Yaa and Esther had a daughter, right? And her name was Marjorie. And Marjorie had asked Yaa, like, and I'm not going to quote it verbatim. I don't have it with me. But Marjorie had asked Yaa, she had said, "Dad, how did you know you loved my mom?" And Yaa had said something like, "I was born with the love that I had for your mother. It was never something I had to learn or find. It was born in me. It was already there. I was created to love her." I was like, oh my gosh. I just thought in every part of me that was beautiful. And I wanted to mark that, and I wanted to talk about that specific quote on my podcast, because that is like, oh my gosh, like if there's ever an expression of love, if there's ever a way in which I think I want to be loved, I mean, I want to be loved like that. Like I just, so it's, anyway, that quote just shows you as well that in a book that can be so devastating and so hard, that you can find love. And there are parts of it that's like, oh my goodness. And no, Yaa is a good writer. Don't let me dissuade you. And I mean, perhaps maybe you might enjoy the ending. Maybe I'm a tough critic, but I really liked it. And that was just a really good quote. Anyway, so here's my final verdict. I'm going to give Homegoing 3 stars. Like I said, I am a tough critic, and it's not because of her writing. The writing is 5-star level. I promise you're gonna love it. It's not because of the story. That was powerful, but it was because of the ending. I think it's just because I was just extra annoyed because I read her books back to back, the both of them, and I felt like I was still raw from the first one. The first one definitely did me in as well. Transcendent Kingdom was really good. I recommend that as well. But do I recommend you to read this book? Yes, especially if you like Chimamanda Ngozi, you'll like this book as well. I think that, especially also if you like multi-generational stories that weave into history, identity, survival, you'll really enjoy this. So yeah, you guys, I want to hear from you. Have you read Homegoing? What questions did it make you ask yourself? And if you haven't read it, what's a challenge? Like, what's a book that challenged you in order to see your identity and your heritage? Please drop your comments. Also, let's talk about it really quickly. So I don't know if you guys know, but I am a Big Brother fan. Okay, I love Big Brother. I love the game. I love the strategy. And look, please, Nigerian Big Brother is not the same as American Big Brother, okay? There is proper strategy that goes into it, and Big Brother is not like Love Island as well, okay? Big Brother is like really good reality TV. And so Taryn on Rob Has a Podcast, he does like daily updates, and usually I will wake up early and to listen to it because I'm 3 hours behind the East Coast, right? So usually by the time I'm kind of stirring in bed and waking up, he's already started the podcast on Big Brother. So this morning, as I was in between Sleep World and this world, I put it on just to find out that Rachel Riley has been evicted from the game. You guys, I am in complete distraught. I am in mourning. I was already in mourning for someone else, but now I'm in mourning again. This is really sad to me. And I don't think anyone else would get it that is not a Big Brother fan. Like, it is so sad. Oh, Rachel. And she tried, you guys. She really did try hard. I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself in this season anymore. Like, Rachel was the exciting factor, and now that she's gonna be gone, like, I don't think Will or Ava has a chance. I wanted to do an episode specifically on Big Brother. Maybe I'll do it when maybe we get into the jury. Actually, this week we got into the jury, so maybe I'll do it like maybe top 5 or something. I don't know, but maybe one day I'll give a episode on Big Brother, and then I'll announce who I think I want to win. And I don't know, today I want Will to win. I wanted Ava to win yesterday, but she said some things about Rachel that I did not agree with. Anyway, but that's besides the point. That is my let's talk about it. That's kind of just what's happening right now in my own heart. If today's episode, I don't know, if you enjoyed my book review today and you would like to hear more and you would like to hear me talk more and just yap in your ear, please continue to listen to me. Subscribe or follow or all the things that are down below, and also follow me on Instagram at Fikayo. I drop episodes every Saturday, so pull up a chair. I'll see you next week right here at the table. Goodbye.